And we say pleasant Wednesday morning to you as we wrap up our shows in the month of May. Buddy Songy here with Jonathan Poche. Marty Campbell, as always, the cameraman, trying to make us look as good as possible. We have the sunglasses on. We've got a little different type of show for you today, folks. We have no interviews, no tape. We're just kind of myself and Jonathan Poche. Of course, all of us here at Pelican Sports Radio, TV, and YouTube. Hope you and yours are doing well. And quite frankly, this is a recap show of the worst year in LSU athletics in 50 or 60 years. I know that sounds kind of crazy when you hear it, but it has been a rough go for you Tiger sports fans. And yet, that being said, JP, LSU still comes in as leading the country in paid attendance on all of the big three sports, as the fan base has been loyal. But JP will start off, wrap it up with baseball. And I know that we are all big fans of Jay Johnson over here at Pelican Sports Radio and TV. But JP, the first question out of the gate is, in your opinion, what happened and how quickly will Jay Johnson be able to fix this problem as the Tigers inexplicably going 9-21 in the SEC? They beat Oklahoma in the first game of the tournament and then got beat by Auburn, of course, to finish 10-22 in the SEC. Barely over 500 with the overall record. JP, what happened? Good to be with you. And how quick a fix does Jay Johnson have, in your opinion?
Oh, great to be here, bud, man. Appreciate that. Great to be here with all of you out there watching. We're wearing the sunglasses, as Buddy mentioned, because it was a tough year, but also JP family going through a tough loss. Loss of GG. Will certainly miss you and love you, and we'll look after Pawpaw for you here on this side of this great thing we call life. What happened to baseball, Bud, man? I think baseball happened. It's hard to win. It is very difficult. A lot of things have to go right. Have to avoid injury. The ball has to bounce your way. You need timely pitching. You need timely hitting. And I think on all of those fronts, it didn't go LSU's way. We both think a lot of Coach Jay Johnson. I thought the entire season, right until the end, maybe two SEC series left, that they still had the time to turn around. And they plugged in a lot of young guys, and they got some time to play. But it's really hard for me to put my finger on, what one thing went wrong. Jake Brown, in my opinion, was the best player on this team. He goes down, misses at least, 12 SEC games. You put on top of that, you lose, so much from the MLB draft from last year. All three starting pitchers in Shores, Anderson, and Ianson. You got to replace all three of those guys. I thought Casey Evans did a real good job. When he was on, he was as good as it gets. And Cooper Moore gets hurt. He was a big part of that rotation before he went down. I thought Schmitty did a good job setting up his second year to be a solid third option. But, you get bit that hard by the draft, and it's going to be tough. And you had guys that you might say they underperformed when they got into LSU jerseys, guys that, had high expectations coming in as transfer portal guys, and Zach York and Seth Dardar and Trent Caraway. And maybe they didn't perform like they wanted to. Maybe, kind of dealt with some lingering injuries. There's just a lot of different things that went wrong. But, man, to answer your question, how fast can Coach Jay Johnson get it turned around? I think next season this will all be in the past. LSU will reload. Of course, they're going to lose a lot off this team. But like I said earlier, they did get a chance to play a lot of young guys in meaningful series in the SEC this season. They did well. Hopefully those guys come back to LSU with a renewed spirit. Now, put this behind you. Baseball, I learned this a long time ago, you're never as good as your best game, and you're never as bad as your worst game. And unfortunately, LSU just had a tough time winning against the top echelon teams. And unfortunately for LSU, they play in the SEC, so most top echelon teams do play in the conference. And it was just very difficult to get wins in a row. It shocked me, Bud, man. I did not have this team, losing 22 games in the SEC. I thought they would be a representative of the SEC in Omaha. But, all that's in the past now. As Jay Johnson said, as soon as they lost to Auburn, they had a 4.5-hour staff meeting on that Monday, talking about recruiting, talking about development, talking about how they're going to get this team back to the spot that Jay Johnson needs his program to play at. And I have faith, Bud, man. I think he can do it, and I look forward to see what this team can do next season, putting all of this behind them and just moving forward positively.
Yeah, well said. Look, Jonathan was a little more optimistic about the LSU baseball team. I have been a negative Nelly for this team for a long, long time this year. They just didn't have it. And I go back to my discussions with Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban after they had won the national championship for the first time in 45 years for the Tiger football fan base. And I was asking those guys, do you have a chance to repeat? And Jimbo, in his West Virginia accent, said, buddy, we don't know who the damn quarterback's going to be. Human nature also is a big part of it. And as you alluded to, the lack of the fact that you lose a lot of baseball players in the draft. And so you don't have as much retention as you used to have, because we all know in this day and age, everybody wants the money. And you got guys that are playing 3 or 4 years at 3 or 4 different colleges. But to put it in a nutshell, it was just one of those things where the first thing we have to start talking about is that when you go to Omaha, you're not worried about the portal. You're not worried about this guy getting in the portal. Do I have enough money? Where am I going to fit him in? You're thinking about the now. And you're thinking about when. What's important now? That's what the acronym WIN. What's important now? And that was to win a natty, and of course they did, and Jay won 2 of 3 as LSU baseball did. I thought right out of the gate he set this team up for failure with the schedule. You cannot go to Texas. You cannot go to Florida, all these tournaments or whatever they do early on, and get these kids back at 1 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and then have them fired up to play a Tuesday game. Inexplicably more Tuesday losses than ever before, and the schedule was a big part of that. You know I'm hell-bent on this, and I know baseball players and coaches are out on the diamond for 6 and 7 hours at a time with practice and games and inter-squads. But he also was overworking this team this year. You'd have a damn hour and a half practice from 1 to 2:30 and then play on Tuesday nights. And so I don't think Coach Johnson pushed a lot of the right buttons. The schedule was really, really tough. And then you get into the real problem that LSU had this year, and it falls squarely and mainly on pitching. They had one of the worst staffs ever at LSU, and it gives me no happiness to say that. JP, around 5.5 for the ERA for the year. Cooper Moore got hurt. Gavin Guidry was a basket case. Didn't know whether he was going to be good or not. You mentioned William Schmidt. He had his moments, but once again, when they needed him, he couldn't even go with back spasms. Casey Evans was a better reliever last year than the starter. He was not. You really had no solid Friday night guy. Once Moore got hurt, and Schmidt was inconsistent. So you didn't have the starting pitchers. And as we've said on numerous occasions, man, when you're looking at Cade Anderson, you're looking at Anthony Eisen, you're looking at Chase Shores, they didn't have 3 pitchers of that magnitude on the roster at all. Maverick Rizzi just got in the transfer portal, or he's getting there. He made his intentions known yesterday, and he couldn't throw it. This team had record numbers, but they were all bad things. Record numbers with walks, wild pitches, hit batman, errors, pass balls. And so when you cut this thing up, it was ugly, ugly baseball. And this goes without saying, I will not live long enough. Many of our listeners and viewers will not live long enough, hopefully, to ever see LSU lose 5 of the last 6 SEC series with sweeps. They lost 15 of 18 in the last portion of the baseball schedule. And so that none of that's going to ever happen. Of course, they did beat Carolina 3 games after Paul Maneri got his check and was replaced over at South Carolina. And so but then again, we got to throw in one other little tidbit, JP, and then I'll let you play off of that. But the SEC, always so good. Brackets came out yesterday, actually Monday morning at 11, and Georgia at 3, Auburn at 4, Texas at 6, Alabama at 7, and Florida at 8. 5 of the SEC teams were national seeds and can host regionals and super regionals.
Yep.
They continue to win. And 12 in the league got into the dance. Kentucky got to 13. We all said if you get to 13 and 17 in the league, you got a great chance to get there. But Vandy didn't get in. LSU didn't get in. And, of course, Carolina and Missouri didn't get in. So it is a complicated problem. They had problems with timely hitting. They had problems with discipline. I mean, many a time we would see a 3-2 pitch down in the dirt, and they would swing and miss and strike out on a ball 4. And so, look, this is one, you hate to be so negative, but there were so many problems that I don't think we will ever see anything like that again under the tutelage of Jay Johnson. Now, here's the good thing, JP. He's got a jump on everybody in the country with getting into the portal. And so Jay admitted he went after home run hitters. You hit 30 over at Grand Canyon. You hit 20-something at the High Point. You did bring in a guy from Oregon State that didn't play out and a couple of other transfers. But you need plug-and-play guys with baseball transfers. And so this is one where you go back to the drawing board. And but, when you look at it, this is the worst pitching staff that I've ever seen that LSU have in 20, 30 years. And Nate Yeske and Josh Jordan and Jay Johnson. Oh, by the way, worst catching that we've ever seen. So you hate to throw all that out, but that was just the reality of it. And if there's anybody that works harder than Jay Johnson in college baseball, I don't know who it is, JP.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Bud, man. You mentioned the schedule. Coach Jay Johnson definitely worked them hard. And when things didn't go right for LSU right away, he was trying to get into the lab and get a very specific plan for each one of these guys. Talk about executing every pitch you had a plan. And truly, mentally, the baseball season is a grind. You mentioned having a long series, bus riding back after losses, going straight back to the field before a Tuesday game. That's definitely a mental grind, and when you're losing, it just makes it so much heavier. Now, when you're winning, you're with your teammates, everything seems easier. But when you can't scratch wins, and then when they finally figured it out, Bud, man, just continue on with the thought about the schedule. You finally think they kind of figured out. They're scoring like 8 runs a game. The defense is playing good enough to at least win a couple in a row. You take the series against South Carolina. There's a little bit of glimmer of hope for LSU baseball making a regional, and you draw Georgia. I mean, you in a must-win series for LSU to have any hope of the postseason. You pick the best team in the SEC, outright season winners. They win the tournament. And truly, you can see why. 1 through 9, they're dangerous. Pitching, they have guys coming out throwing 95, which LSU does too. But they were able to compete in the zone all year. I'm talking about Georgia and Coach Wes Johnson. I mean, the job he's been able to do in building that juggernaut in just a short couple years. I don't think Coach Nate Yeske should be on the hot seat. I think it was a combination of player development and just a lack of execution. But something has to improve here this offseason. You mentioned the catching. Every single game, the pass balls, the wild pitches, the free bases that go from a guy on first with 1 out to a guy on third with 1 out. Sacrifice fly means a whole lot in a 1-run ball game. So yeah, you can point to a whole lot of things, Bud, man. But I think playing the SEC, winning 2 of the last 3, the target on your back was as big as ever. Guys coming in that really wanted to maybe press and show that they belonged at LSU instead of letting the game come to them. A lack of timely pitching, a lack of execution at the plate, the catching, the timely hitting, the errors in the infield. When you add all that together, you cannot survive the SEC schedule with that type of baseball, and this just proves it outright. That doesn't matter what you go into on paper with expectations. Expectations mean absolutely zero. You have to go out there and execute. And I think LSU will take this as a learning experience. You heard Coach Jay Johnson said it after the loss to Auburn in the SEC tournament. Now, he's taking more from this year as a leader and a coach than he did from both his championship seasons. That might be coach talk. I think he remembers those seasons much more fondly than he will this one, absolutely. Those 2 championship seasons probably ring the memory bell more often than this season will moving forward. But I agree. You learn a lot. You can learn a lot more from a loss than a win, and certainly LSU provided a lot of learning opportunities this past season.
Yeah, and listen, we want to also throw a couple of positives in here for baseball. First of all, Jay Johnson is the hardest working guy in all of college baseball, and so he will get this thing fixed. Now, because of the nature of the transfer portal and because of NIL and the landscape of college athletics right now, it could be a massive turnaround next year, and it could take a year and a half or 2 years. But here's some of the positive, JP, that we start. And first of all, we start off with the freshman who did get a chance to come in. Omar Cerna is a hitting star. Now, he did have some back ailments at the back end of the year. Cade Arambidi led LSU with home runs. Did something that only 3 players in the SEC ever did. JP, you know what it was?
What did he hit? Those 4 homers?
4 home runs in one game. That's only happened 4 times in the history of SEC baseball. So you have good catchers right there, but do you have a defensive catcher that is going to come in and do a better job? Mason Braun at first base. Probably should have been there earlier, but Jay did realize it. You know, that's the catch-22, JP, you have. You pay all these guys money to come in, and Big Papa was a highlight of Superior Grill for a couple of weeks after hitting home runs to beat Indiana and others, but unfortunately he could not hold the rope and got put to the bench. Seth Dardar, we thought would be solid, had some good moments, but Jack Walker, another freshman from Catholic High, got over to second base, got a lot of PT. Milam, everybody wants him to come back, but Jay Johnson said there's probably a couple of million reasons he won't be back. He expects him to get a big deal. One of the best defensive shortstops ever at LSU, but not the best overall shortstop. I think Alex Bregman and Brandon Larson and Russ Johnson and others would be part of that discussion. At third base, got the big guy, John Pearson. And when John connects with it, it's a good chance to be out the park. Unfortunately, he did not exhibit a lot of discipline, especially on 2-strike pitches with these balls in the dirt and outside. He struck out way too much. All the outfielders are gone. Of course, Stanley's gone from left. Derek Curriero is only played here 2 years, but he's old enough to go pro, so he'll be gone. And then Jake Brown, obviously, with his injury. But William Patrick, another freshman, came in and played a little bit. You had a couple of other guys that Harden, also a junior college kid from Catholic High. But, man, when you start talking about the pitching, now they are excited. Kason Evans is going to be a junior next year. William Schmidt will be a junior next year. And Cooper Moore had the surgery. Coach Johnson said last week that he will be back. So those 3 guys are going to be back. But JP, Devin Sheeran had his moments, and then he had a week or 2 where he got lit up, and then he was dominant again. But you just didn't have the consistency. And the best thing about the SEC baseball tournament for me after this frustrating baseball year is to see the automated ball strike system put into effect. It was fast, it was quick, it did not slow down the flow of the play. And for those of you who listen to me in radio and TV or whatever all these years, I love my umpires, I love my referees, I love my officials. But my goodness, they miss a lot of calls. We saw it on the major league level, and we saw it in the SEC tournament. Cade Arambidi got Kason Evans out of an inning or 2 just by challenging those pitches. And, of course, you had 3 challenges, and Arambidi, I think, was 6 for 6 in the final game against Auburn. But he got Evans. There was a couple batters that were 3-2. It's called a ball. He challenged. It's a strike. That's an out versus a walk. And so I heard Songy on a radio interview, and I don't know if they're going to be able to economically afford it for next year. But ABS is coming to SEC regular season baseball, probably not next year, but the following year. And I for one, think that's going to make the game better. What do you think of the ABS system?
Yeah, I appreciated it, Bud, man, especially because LSU, seemed to get that groove with how they're working it in the second game. I think it's good for baseball to get the right call. Obviously, I've been supportive of umpires. There's an umpire shortage across America for youth baseball because everybody's so hard on these umpires. out here doing the best they can. But on that level, they get more than right than they get wrong. But when there's so much money on the line, so many opportunities on the line for these guys, I do appreciate how they're able to get the ABS system working. And the last thing I'll say about the SEC tournament, after the entire year for LSU being so disappointing for the fans, they really did show up at the Hoover Met. LSU fans were loud. They stayed for both games. Coach Jay Johnson, did acknowledge them and the support that they gave. I think LSU baseball fans are smart. I think that's one thing that kind of differentiates them from most baseball fans across college baseball is they understand the game. They understand, what's at stake in such situations. They know when to get up. They know when to be quiet. And they know what their team is playing for. They understood that LSU, unless they won the tournament, we're not going to make postseason play. We're not going to make a regional, but still showed up, supported these guys that have been there for a couple of years, Milan for 3, Carriel for 2. Guys that really, did a lot for LSU, brought some championships to LSU. I was really happy to see LSU fans in such good numbers and such good spirits out there at the Hoover Met.
All right, folks, just checking some of the phone here. We'll take a quick break. Beth Turina and the Lady Tigers did win their regional against Virginia Tech. Unfortunately, as the 16th seed, they got the draw to go play at Alabama, the number 1 overall seed. And once again, to show you the quality, 5 of the softball top 8 are SEC. 5 of the top 8 in college baseball are SEC. So OKC, which happens this week for the ladies, and, of course, Omaha, soon to be on your TV screens here. There will be plenty of SEC representation, once again, for both softball and baseball with the SEC League. Quick timeout. We come back, pay some bills, and we come back and talk a little bit of football. Lane Kiffin, does he love the spotlight or what? Tell you a little bit about Destin and everything going on over there. And do you want to see the CFP go from 12 to 24? I don't think so. Not so fast, my friend. Back with more. Buddy Songy, Jonathan Poche, Marty Campbell, and, of course, our owners, Alan and Bert, hoping that all of you are going to have great summertime. Be safe. Be smart. And don't forget, when you're driving to the beaches of Florida, you got to go through Mississippi. You better have the fuzzbuster ready because they're going to be taking whoop, whoop, whoop. If you're going 80 on that 70 interstate, liable to get a ticket because Ole Miss and their fan base and everybody in the state of Mississippi still using plenty of our favorite product over there, Boudreaux's Butt Paste. Back after this on Tigers Roar.
Embrace the luxury, safety, and comfort of a new Mazda at Team Mazda. Right now, get 1.9% financing for 60 months on a new Mazda CX-5 or a new Mazda CX-50. Find spring savings on your new Mazda here at Team Mazda on Airline.
When I started this practice over 35 years ago, I had one goal: to treat every patient like family. And over the years, I've watched kids grow up in this office, come back as parents, and now I'm seeing their kids in the same chair. That kind of trust, it's not something we take for granted. This isn't just where we do dentistry. It's where we make people feel at home. Frugier Family Dentistry, where you treat it like family. Call or visit FrugierFamilyDentistry.com to schedule.
Visit Treads & Care Tire Company's new location on Hooper Road in Central. Locally owned for over 50 years, Treads & Care is known for quality automotive repair and top-notch customer service.
I'd like to invite you to come out and see us at our new location in Central.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats. The flavor says it all.
Look up to the skies. but you can't keep it in your heart. 'Cause misery loves company. 'Cause misery loves company. Cold and hungry like a dog in the street. I get a raw deal every one.
And as we welcome you back, hope everybody doing well. Buddy Songy in the house talking some LSU. This is kind of our recap show. We didn't do any interviews today. We kind of wanted to give you a little bit of the landscape of where LSU athletics is after having one of the worst seasons ever in its history. Now we segue quickly over to football. The SEC is having their meetings in Destin as they normally do right around Memorial Day. And JP, Lane Kiffin, has made a couple of moves. Let's talk about the first thing. They continue to recruit well. Got a big recruiting weekend with about 4 studs coming in. Eastern Royal, the 5-star wide receiver from New Orleans. He's been committed to Texas. JP, have you seen this kid? And, when you start talking about quarterbacks and wide receivers and tight ends and offensive players, LSU's going to make it hard for them to be turned down when you've got Kiffin and what he brings to the table on offense.
Yeah, Easton Royal is a special player, bud, man. Track star on top of a great wide receiver. Ended up going viral a game against St. Aug last season. Had a one-hander that was absolutely sick over the shoulder for a touchdown. Against great competition, St. Aug obviously sent a lot of D1 talent to college football. So, yeah, Easton Royal, special kid. They love him at Brother Martin, I'll tell you that. He's got good size, just about 6'1", but he can absolutely run, bud, man. The kid has great feet, great hands. I mentioned the viral one-handed catch, but that was just one catch of many touchdowns he had last season. 5A Catholic League football in Louisiana is tough, bud, man. You play good teams each and every week, and this kid is by far the best talent on his team. Defenses try to eliminate him, try to take him away on half the field, double team him in passing situations, but still he gets his. And, it's going to be hard for him to turn down coming to play at LSU for this coaching staff, for this exciting offense, brand of offense that we've been promised by Lane Kiffin. But truly, I'm ready to see it, bud, man. I'm ready to see Sam Levitt on the field with 11-on-11s, strapping up helmets and getting physical because truly – with so many moving parts, so much turnover on the roster, offensive line turnover, got new running backs in the house, got new wide receivers in the house. So ready to see it in action, bud, man. Week 1, obviously a huge game, college game day coming down to Baton Rouge, LSU versus Clemson for the battle of the real Death Valley. Couldn't be a brighter stage, brighter lights for Coach Lane Kiffin. You mentioned the SEC Media Days. Talked about a big hire, obviously first out the gate. They were talked about hiring Coach Eddie O back to LSU. We talked about it briefly off camera, bud, man. You love the hire, and so do I. I mean, a home run. The guy won a championship as a head coach. Recruiting, to have a specialty, okay, to be able to have a specialty in recruiting Louisiana players at LSU, a place that he absolutely loves. Is a superpower for Coach Ed Orgeron. It's been why he's able to keep jobs in college football for so long. He's bounced around major programs across the country, but truly recruiting is what he does special. On top of great defensive line coach, and he's going to be the special assistant to recruiting and defensive. So. Coach O coming back to Baton Rouge. I know you're excited about that, bud, man, and I'm ready to see the product on the field. There's a lot of money's been spent on the roster, brought in a lot of high-priced talent. Brought the number one coach that was, maybe he wasn't available, but the number one coach that was available, the guy that you wanted to lead this program. So excited for football, bud, man. I know you went through all the spring practices, got to see a lot of the backup quarterbacks, got to see a lot of the running backs, how this new coaching staff was approaching everything they had going on. So looking forward to this football season, to say the least.
Yeah, SEC meetings in Destin, and a lot of talk about are you going to 24. JP and I will dive into that, but just kind of a recap. Look, folks, LSU is going to have about a $45 million football program. Will Wade is spending a bunch of money, and everybody is going to have a pronunciation guide on a lot of his international players. Look, I've got the blue hat on today, not the black hat, but LSU fans, you're going to have thick skin this year. People are going to be pointing at you. When you go to the beaches of Sandestin and 30A and Fort Walton and Pensacola and Navarre Beach and all, even into Gulfport and Biloxi, you're going to have a lot of people kicking up sand on your purple and gold beach towel, talking about how horrendous it is. As we get back, you mentioned Sam Levitt. He's coming back from the Linsfranc injury. Matt Mauck had the same injury. Many of you watched Matt Mauck, and I asked specifically that particular year that was right before they had won the Natty, and we know that he was out for the year, but he did come back. Of course, we also know that Sam Levitt is expected to be fully healthy probably sometime in mid-June or late June, so they expect him to be healthy by the end of June. Running 21 miles an hour right now, straightforward, not a lot of cutting. But JP, here's the deal with these teams, and when you bring in guys that we had on the show last time we had Tigers Roar, Jordan Seaton came over here from 325 at Colorado now to about 305. Left tackle, got a lot of money. This is his money year. Sam Levitt, coming from AZ State, was hurt with that Linsfranc injury. He's got a couple of guys below him, Husan Longstreet and Landon Clark, but Sam Levitt is the guy that is going to have to be the man if LSU is going to make the playoffs. And Jim Morris says, playoffs? But lo and behold, look, a lot of talk about LSU. And here's the problem, folks. Once again, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Florida, Oklahoma. I mean, every time you look around, JP, you're going to have great competition. As you alluded to, LSU going to prove to the world on the night of September 5th that Baton Rouge is a real Death Valley. And for those of my friends and media people that went to Clemson, no disrespect to Dabo and the Clemson Tigers, but their Death Valley is not a pimple on the butt of the Tigers Stadium. So what a great opening game with 6:30 ABC game day there. Second week, you'll see game day at Texas as they host Ohio State in a return blockbuster game. And then, of course, the third week, LSU once again on game day at Ole Miss, 6:30 ABC. So I love already having some of these early games. But, man, when you think about Clemson week 1, Ole Miss week 3, and those Aggies of Texas A&M week 4, a daunting schedule, and then you finish up with a tough 4-game stretch. And so, JP, you know, people ask me all the time, what's the record? I don't like to give a record until we see everybody out there on the practice field. And but I'm thinking, 9-3 was somewhere that's a reasonable prediction. If you stay healthy and you get all the breaks, you can go 10-2. You get a couple of people hurt, especially like Levitt or Whit Weeks. Those two guys are keys. Whit Weeks coming back on defense. He'll play next to T.J. Daugherty at inside linebacker, and then Sam Levitt, who has some Burrow-type personality traits. He's a leader. He's a guy that people will gravitate to, but are you going to get Joe Burrow in year 1 or Joe Burrow in year 2? And hopefully it's a combination of the two. But anyway, coming into the SEC, JP, also 9 conference games at LSU with 5 of the road games. And so certainly the schedule is daunting, but you know the conventional wisdom. People think, hey, they spent $40+ million or whatever in the portal.
Right.
They automatically expect this team to run out on the field on the night of September 5th and look like a well-oiled machine, and more than likely it's going to take a couple games.
Yeah, but, man, unfortunately, there is no preseason in college football, and this season in particular, LSU could have benefited from having some type of warm-up game. Brand-new coaching staff on offense. You keep Blake Baker, but still a lot of moving pieces. You bring in guys from, Princewell, DJ Daugherty, Ty Benefield. These guys still have to kind of figure out their roles on the team, on the field. And usually that does take a little while. Usually, before the season starts, the defense is a little bit ahead of the offense just because of timing reasons, and the defense is just putting their ears back and going to get it. And I think LSU is going to have to kind of play that way a little bit in Game 1 against Clemson. They're going to have to be able to rely on that defense in West Weeks, right in the middle, and pressuring the quarterback. And there will be question marks like who's the number one receiver going to turn out to be? Who's the number one start running back going to turn out to be? I think a lot of running back by committee, certainly in the first few games, until they figure out who's going to be the bell cow, who's going to be the third down back, who's going to catch the ball at the backfield. And maybe they'll find a guy who can do all three. And I think Harlan Berry certainly flashed in his freshman season and got a little bit stronger in the offseason, matured a little bit. He hosted a camp at St. Martin's in the offseason. So kind of guy that's stepping into his own role. So, who's going to emerge? Who's going to be a transfer guy that really steps up to be a leader in this team? Who's going to get the 18 and number 7? A lot of storylines before that week 1 against Clemson. And, a lot of questions in that SEC Media Days to Lane Kiffin was about that week 3 matchup at Ole Miss. And credit to Lane Kiffin, even though he loves the spotlight, I thought he did a good job kind of saying, we have a lot to get done before that week even comes. We have, off-season OTAs. We got to, fill out this roster, the depth chart, and then we got, week 1 against Clemson, who's a great program. Dabo's won more than any other active college coach that's going right now. So, it's not a pushover. It's not because we're playing a night game at Baton Rouge. College game day is going to be there. And this is Lane Kiffin's, his big welcome out party. That doesn't mean Clemson's going to try to lose this game. I mean, this is a team that perennially tries to make the playoff, tries to make a run at that championship. So LSU, took one last year against Clemson. No doubt in my mind, Clemson's trying to repay the favor this season. And you mentioned it. You're going to the beach. Going through Mississippi, LSU in the black hat. You need to embrace the villain role as an LSU fan because, between Lane Kiffin, Will Wade, what he's doing with the 27-year-old former professional EuroLeague players that come back now they're eligible for college. He's only taking advantage of the rules that are in place. He's not the only coach that is doing it, but when it's Will Wade, when it's LSU, it's a bigger problem than anywhere else. So just embrace that villain role. It's kind of been Louisiana versus everybody for a long time now, but everybody kind of wanted to support LSU, support Louisiana. That's no longer the case. When you throw $45 million at a roster, you expect results, and I think Lane Kiffin I think he ate a lot of crap. He ate a lot of, the word I'm going to say, to come to LSU and explain his reason, explain why he's going to leave a playoff team, explain why he's going to leave Oxford after the game, all the opportunity to be himself. I think there's a lot to prove, and I think week 1 against Clemson can go two ways, bud, man. Either everybody's like, oh, yeah, here we go. It's going to be a playoff championship run, or it's going to be like, oh, boy, we have a lot of growing to do when everybody's not giving us a chance, not giving LSU a chance to even have a little room to grow. They expect them to be good right now. The pressure is to be good right now. And if the product isn't very good on the field, it could be a rough start for LSU fans in and around Baton Rouge.
Well, Jay Johnson always used to say that I don't want any drama on my baseball team. Well, it just seemed like Lane Kiffin loves to troll and loves the drama. Back to Coach O, we talked a little bit about that. I think it's a perfect fit. They're going to pay him $100,000, which is chump change, considering that he got his full salary payoff with the first contract deal with the $17 billion. Of course, unfortunately, the wife got half of it in a legal dispute that she won. But they had paid him off December of 2025, and so. Look, this is a perfect fit for him. He's going to be part of the recruiting staff. He can go on the road and recruit. But JP, he was already working with Richard Anderson and Lamar Brown and all those D linemen and all the intricate details about getting off the ball, your hand placement, all the things that Coach O, he is a disciple of Pete Jenkins, and I think this is a win-win situation for LSU. Back to the overview. Whit Weeks, you got to have Whit Weeks healthy. And, of course, next to T.J. Daughtery, Daughtery's going to wear 6. You mentioned 18 and 7. Conventional wisdom says that Whit Weeks could be 18 and Trey'Dez Green could be number 7. And I hope that I'm right telling you fans this for this upcoming season. You're not going to see Trey'Dez Green get hurt blocking because he is going to be a hybrid tight end, and the way Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. use those tight ends, I really think Trey'Dez Green will get a lot of national publicity. Oh, by the way, Jordan Seaton could certainly be a first-round pick. Trey'Dez Green can be a first-round pick. Sam Levitt can be a first-round pick. And then as we played the interviews with Ty Benefield, another plug-and-play safety from Boise State. They've got some talent and some difference makers. But you know this, JP, we've got to judge LSU's production and improvement at the line of scrimmage. And if they stay healthy on the O-line, then they're going to be really good. The defensive line is going to determine how physical you can get. And as we all know with Coach Blake Baker, we love him. But, JP, since they hadn't had an opportunity to really hit and play tackle in the spring, folks, they practice like pros now. You don't get in 2 days, then 3 days, the old days where you just beat each other up and everybody is tough as nails. This is a softer society. And you treat these players differently. They don't hit as much, but the physicality with, of course, Prince on one edge and Jordan Ross on the other edge, and all those interior players, good linebackers, but once again, got to stay healthy and improve. And I think special teams is a crapshoot right now. You are replacing Damian Ramos as your kicker, but all that being said, JP, I'm telling people, AP poll, I'm thinking LSU 10, 11, or 12. But, man, there's going to be 3, 4 SEC teams in there. Don't forget about A&M. Don't forget about Ole Miss. I mentioned Bama. Tennessee is a game at the back end of the year that's tough. Going to Auburn and Kentucky are not going to be cupcakes. And so a tough schedule, but it is going to be so exciting. And if you stay healthy, with all the things that they have in place, should be a very fun year to follow LSU football. What's your most anticipated game, and what do you want to see out of fall camp?
My most anticipated game is going to be the return for Lane Kiffin to Ole Miss. Just the hostility on paper. You can't really picture that type of environment unless you've been in something like that. Fortunately, I have sit in opponent sides of the field for LSU game, LSU championship, so I understand the hostility of fans, and truly that's going to be an environment that's going to be special. Game day is going to be there. All of Oxford's going to be there. No love lost there. Certainly looking forward to that. Look, weekend's going to be special too. Now, the opening week for college football, Lane Kiffin's debut as the head coach for LSU. But yeah, that week 3 is going to be something different. And I think LSU fans that are going, I think they need to go in a big crowd. And truly, don't take any crap, because we saw during baseball season, Ole Miss fans were feeling themselves and picking on LSU fans a little bit. I said on Chris Power's show last week that for game day week 1, Bud, man, I figured out who I think the celebrity guest picker should be for LSU. And it should be that baseball fan that dropped that frag guy from LSU from Ole Miss when he was leaving the game. That would really get the juices going here for LSU. Looking forward to week 3. What players am I the most looking forward to? Obviously, the quarterback, Sam Levitt. He was special at Arizona State. What he can do in a Lane Kiffin offense for LSU. Very mobile, can also throw the ball. Trey'Dez Green, you mentioned he's poised at least to have a very big year. Very special player for LSU at the tight end spot. And then the defense. You mentioned Whit Weeks, T.J. Dottery, the 2 ends they got. But Ty Benefield, I mean, that kid just seems so intelligent, so well-spoken, put together. I mean, he got good size for the safety spot, and he also brings the wood. So I'm looking forward to seeing that on defense. And, Sam Levitt on offense. Hopefully it is as good as advertised. We saw him have a spin move. I actually aired on Tigers Roar a couple weeks back. Before the injury last season against TCU. Absolutely dynamic when the ball in his hands. So looking forward to the fast-paced offense, Bud, man. A new take on offense. Love watching Drew Brees, Sean Payton. I was a student of their offense, kind of learned how to work that spread. And looking forward to doing the same for Sam Levitt and Coach Lane Kiffin. Of course, we're going to get access to him all season long, and we'll have it here on Tigers Roar. Looking forward to all those, the Tuesday, Monday press conferences talking about the weekend. So a lot to look forward to, Bud, man. And I'm looking forward to doing it again, one more season here on Tigers Roar with you.
All right, good stuff. As always, hey, we're taping right now in the lunchtime area. What are you having for lunch, folks? Give them an opportunity. Good food, good friends, good times over at Goodwood Grill, 927-7550, www.goodwoodgrillbr.com. All of the things you want, steak sandwich, burgers, obviously steak Philly, shrimp tilapia. Once again, chicken. JP loves the daily lunch specials.
The chicken fried steak, bud, man.
What's that?
That chicken fried steak.
Oh, that chicken fried steak is to die for. Red beans and rice, great sides, great kid menu, and they do catering. If you have a big company cookout that you need catered, they will do it over at Goodwood Grill. 927-7550. Call Nick, Keon, or Leah and tell them Buddy and Tiger's Roar sent you over to one of our great sponsors, Goodwood Grill. Always a thrill when you go to Goodwood Grill. And we're talking some Saints and more on a Wednesday edition of Buddy Sports Talk. Nope, that's radio. We're at Tiger's Roar right now, folks. JP in the house along with Buddy Songy on a Tiger's Roar edition right here on Pelican Sports TV. Back right after this.
Tremonti's has meat. Tremonti's has seafood. Tremonti's has much more. Tailgating and home gating platters. Huge wine and liquor selection. Beer and all the spices you need. Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats. Ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs. 20 flavors of sausage for the grill. Daily lunch specials and game processing. On-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tremontis.com.
Few things in life are as valuable as family and peace of mind, especially when it comes to your final arrangements. And that's where Lee Serio can help. His prepaid funeral plans make sure your life will be remembered exactly the way you want it to. With Lee Serio, no detail is too large or too small. Call Lee or his wife Gretchen at 225-315-6329. Let Lee Serio give you and your family the peace of mind you all deserve.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
Ready for a new truck? Then now's the time to get set and go to Team Toyota. Drive a new 25 Tacoma for just $299 a month, or get 2.99% for 72 months on a new 26 Tundra. It's time to save on your new Toyota and join the team at Team Toyota.
Treads and Care Tire Company announces its new location on Hooper Road in Central. Locally owned for 50 years, Treads and Care is known for quality automotive repair with top-notch customer service. Treads and Care offers the convenience of shuttle service and pickup and delivery of your vehicle. You can also enjoy the comfortable customer area, complete with workstations, high-speed internet, and a complimentary coffee bar.
I'd like to invite you to come out and see us at our new location in Central.
Treads and Care, the tires you need and the service you want.
And as we welcome you back, how about this, folks? We finally had a couple of days of not with the showers controlling our life. Heck, all I know, JP, is that when it's a washout Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all we do is watch sports and eat. So I'll be glad when we get into the summer. As always, stay hydrated, watch your kids, and enjoy the beaches, because we have a lot to look forward to. JP, a lot of discussion. We'll talk a little more football. Oh, by the way, Kim Mulkey's doing great. She's looking for one more big, a Russian 6'5". That could be happening. Will Wade probably going to finalize his roster at some point in August. And, of course, Jay working very hard in the portal. Beth Torina the same as well. But now we get into this CFP. And, JP, a lot of teams, a lot of conferences led by the Big Ten wanting to go to 24. First of all, it takes away. You know how excited we are about LSU Clemson, LSU Ole Miss, LSU A&M, LSU Alabama, LSU Texas, all those games. You get to 24 and you take away a little bit of the importance of those regular season games if you go to 24, JP.
Yeah, I completely agree, Bud, man. You look at the playoff last season. not to take away anything from John Sumrall and Tulane University, but they did not belong in the college football playoff. Now, they had the bid because they won the conference, and we understand the rules. But when you expand to 24, I mean, what's going to be the cutoff? Bud? Maybe we could turn it into March Madness, 64 teams, maybe more than that. I mean, look, March Madness is now expanded
76,
and now there's 76. So.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think it dilutes the product a little bit. You know, you're especially in the SEC, like every week matters. Every Saturday matters. Now, in other conferences, you know, that's not always the case. Like, I think they discovered that Oregon played a whole schedule where they faced like 7 NFL draftees on a roster, like total, and all the rosters they've played in the SEC, you do it every week. So, yeah, I think it dilutes the product a little bit. And then when is the season then? Like, you know, we go on New Year's 6, and then, you know, New Year's 7, then New Year's, we're playing, you know, into February now in college football. So, I think the playoff right now is still in its infancy. You're still trying to feel out how it's going to work. I don't think changes like can't be made. Like this, how it has to be set for the event of the time. But the committee, I think, it doesn't always get it right. And if you expand it, now you double the teams almost. It's going to be hard to justify, you know, these 7 and 5 teams that are in the SEC making a playoff. But they're going to be so much better than these 9 and 2 Big 10 teams. Look. I don't think you expand it, not yet at least. I know a lot of SEC coaches feel the same way because their schedule is so tough. But, yeah, I mean, it's all about the money. As you well know, Bud, man, they can sell a bunch of tickets, sell a bunch of T-shirts with all these bowl games that now count as playoff games. And you extend the season by like 3 weeks. So that's more TV money. So, yeah, what do we know, Bud, man? We're not getting any of that money.
Yeah, and look, ESPN has a stranglehold on a lot of the bowls and the playoff situation right now. You start going to 24, then you're going to have Cox, you're going to have CBS and NBC and everybody else trying to come in there and get part of that package. Sankey wants to go to 16. A lot of other conferences want to go to 24. And look, it was not right for Vandy to go 10-2 last year and not make it, but that's the way it fell, as you alluded to. You had a couple of stipulations, and the biggest problem I think people have with the committee, JP, is they've got to come out and make sure that they tell everybody strength of schedule means a lot, because if you don't have a strength of schedule parameter in there, then you're going to lose these LSU Clemson games at the beginning. If it's not going to help you at the end of the year with a marginary situation, and lo and behold, like you alluded to, you might have a 9-3 SEC team this year that's really good and better than a Big Ten team that goes 10-2 because of the schedule. The bottom of the SEC is appreciably tougher than the Big Ten, but JP, they've won 3 in a row.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, Kirby Smart rattling a couple of change with people, as we know. He said yesterday that, look, it wouldn't bother me if we broke away and had our own rules. And so you could have some departures from the NCAA down the road. But, man, this is a big mess right now, and a lot of politic and a lot of lobbying going on. So hold on to your hat. But they will make a final decision on December 1 as to how many they will have this next upcoming playoff. It's going to either be 12 or who knows. And so we shall see. But, look, I don't want to take away the importance of the regular season with this new CFP deal.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, Bud, man. Yeah, you won't see LSU have a non-conference week 1 that's of any importance. And why would you? You know, you have 9 games in the SEC now. You want to win your non-conferences to help your strength of schedule later. Strength of schedule has to be at the forefront of these playoff spots that these committees are given. If not, no, what's the point? No, what is the point in scheduling hard teams? Why wouldn't LSU just try to schedule, you know, Southeastern, Southern, like in-state schools they can give money to, beat them really good. Their record looks better. Their points per game looks better. Their differential looks better. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And before we run out of time, Bud, man, I do want to shift gears. I know we have a lot to talk about between now and week 1 against Clemson, but the New Orleans Saints started OTAs yesterday as we tape here on the 27th of May. They started yesterday, Tuesday. Not mandatory, so, you know, it's volunteer. But this is the first chance that reporters and the staff alike have got a chance to really see who might fit into these new roles on the Saints. And I just like to say that I was kind of skeptical at first of Coach Kellen Moore, but what he was able to do last year in the draft, and the production he got out of Tyler Shuck, the second-round pick that nobody believed was supposed to be a second-round pick. Now you go into this offseason, you rebuild your team, and that's what the Saints did this entire offseason, was completely rebuild their offense around Tyler Shuck and bolster that defense that played pretty well under defensive coordinator Brandon Staley at the end of last year. So you look at the draft, you look at the pieces that they brought in through free agency, and if you believe that Tyler Shuck is the guy, Bud, man, then Saints fans have a lot to look forward to. You bring in Travis Etienne, the running back from Jacksonville in a free agency. You bring in David Evers, the guard from the Bills. Then you have the potential to have a really outstanding young group of players that you got in this past draft. OTA's going on now, Bud, man, so a lot to look forward to. Still questions in the air about Cam Jordan. I think Mickey Loomis kind of put Taysom Hill's run as a New Orleans Saint to bed. Didn't really say that there was a contract even on the table for Taysom. So wait and see what happens with Cam Jordan. Obviously, Demario Davis has parted ways to go to the New York Jets. So the Saints bring back Caden Ellis, the linebacker that was drafted by the Saints years back, spent years under Demario Davis, then traveled to Atlanta after his rookie deal was over. Wore the green dot for Atlanta. They gave him the captaincy for 3 years, was very productive. That's going to be my most important role this offseason. Can Caden Ellis kind of morph into a leader on this team and fill the hole that Demario Davis left? But, man, real quick question to you. What are your expectations for the Saints moving into this season? Are they going to make the playoffs? Will they have a chance to win the NFC South?
Well, of course, that NFC South is struggled to have great teams. And, poor Tampa Bay, they needed the Saints to win on the last weekend and to get in, and they did not win that game. Real quick for you Saints fans, going to Paris in Week 7 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers is coming back for his final year. He said this is going to be it. Look, I'm very, very impressed with Kellen Moore. We all know he was wet behind the ears coming over from Philly in his first year. And, I mean, there's big decisions. What are you going to do with Kamara? What are you going to do with, as you said, your, all of the I don't know if they've got enough DBs, JP, but got a big-time wide receiver at the first-round pick. Barrion Brown is going to probably do more than just returns and receivers. I like the way he's building it up, and I got to give props. I beat up Mickey Loomis for some of his drafts, but they've done a much better job this particular year. So, look, playoffs right now, I don't know. I think the over and under for LSU is going to be 9 or 9.5. I think the Saints is going to be somewhere around 7.5, 8, 8.5. And so let's just hope, JP, as you wrap this puppy up, that we'll have great winning seasons from both the Saints and the Tigers this year.
Yeah, I think the Saints can win the NFC South. The division's been down the last few years, but I think Tyler Shuck did make enough strides last season. You got a chance to look at his tape on the offseason. Now you believe he's the guy. But, man, tell him about the radio show in the last 30 seconds, what you got going on this week and what's coming on in the upcoming for the Buddy Sports Talk.
All right, Mike Scarborough today on Wednesday. Todd Walker recapping the SEC and obviously in Hoover. Look, ladies start OKC this week. Men, once again, regionals. Have a great one. See you next time on Tigers Roar, folks.